Thank you, Liz. Thank you, everybody, for joining me today. And as Liz said, we will talk about the future. This is really what I do in Bank of America. We're trying to understand how the future is going to look like, some kind of more futuristic position. But before I start and talk about the future, do we really understand what the future is, what the concept of future? Do we understand what's long-term, what's short-term? Things are just happening so much faster. Things are developing so fast, right? Do we really understand what this is? Do we understand when the short term ends and the long term begins? There are three things I want you to take from my presentation today. A, there's no long term and short term anymore. This is over. The long term is the new short term. You have to ignore what's coming in the coming days because things are just going to happen so much faster. And this is the second point. If you think things have accelerated up until now, you haven't seen anything yet. Things are going to happen so much faster going forward. We are not even in the preview of the beginning of the change. The third point is this: usually when I'm getting a lot of trouble with all my bosses, all the doctrines, all the models, all the evaluations, everything that we learned and we used up until now are not relevant in the new world. And let me prove that to you. We have to come up with new stuff and new models. Let me prove that to you. Let me show you. Let's think about the last 10 years. Clicker is not working. Oh, finally. The last 10 years. Let's try to think about what happened on our planet in the last 10 years. So usually when we think about the last 10 years, we think about COVID. We think about war in Ukraine, we have a conflict in the Middle East, US elections. Those are usually the things that come up when we think about the last 10 years. But few other things happened on our planet in the last 10 years, which actually means so much more to humanity. Let's see what we managed to achieve in 10 years. We cracked the atom to its most basic fundamental elements, particle, what scientists refer to as the God particle, the boson Higgs, the particle that gives everything mass and gravity. We complete the quantum model. We cracked to the most basic fundamental element. We conquered the solar system. This is a decade that we did really naturally conquer it. We landed on asteroids. We landed on comets, what you see over here. We are back on the moon. We have probes all over the solar system. We have rovers on Mars. This is the decade that we really conquered our solar system. We changed our DNA with CRISPR-Cas9 technology. You know that better than I, that these technologies allows us to start changing, modifying, synthesizing DNA. And not only we now can use this technology to really change our DNA, for the first time this decade, we actually created bacteria which contains DNA that was built from scratch in lab. You can go out and say that this is the decade that humanity actually created life for the first time. We took a picture of a black hole. We knew they existed. We knew they were there. We never, ever saw one up until 2019 when this picture was taken from the Event Horizon Telescope. And not only we took this picture, the way that we took these pictures, actually we transformed our entire planet into one gigantic telescope to take this picture over here. And if we are already talking about stars, how about we created a star? Humanity managed to create a star. We are stars creators right now. In a nuclear fusion experiment in South Korea, only a couple of months ago, we created a capsule that was 10 times hotter than the core of the sun and 3 times more dense than the core of the sun here on our planet, and it was stable for 6 minutes. For 6 minutes, we had a star here on our planet. By the way, this is a continuation of another experiment that happened in France a year ago. We managed to do it for 50 seconds. A year before that, here in the United States, for 0.1 of a second. Now we have already stable star for 6 minutes. We built the most expensive and complicated piece of equipment ever, the James Webb Telescope. We sent 1 million miles into space, and in 1 year, we changed everything we know about astronomy, about our universe, about our life. In 1 year, everything we understood. We've written all the astronomical books. And from everything that James Webb discovered, for me, this is the picture that blew my mind the most. This is the picture that is a galaxy which is 13.6 billion light years away from us. Without going to the fundamental and the physics, why it's so mind-blowing? Because what it means, again, without going into a lot of explanations, that today we can see 99% of the universe, and we can go back in time 99% to the Big Bang. This is what it means. 10 years, only 10 years. This is what humanity managed to achieve in 10 years. Why? What's going on here? What have really changed? So it's really, if you think about it, it's a function of two things. It's a function of knowledge and brains. This is really it. Or if I translate those two words, knowledge and brains, into technological phrases, it's about data and about processing power. Those are the two things that are changing our world right now. And we live in a world of both. We live in a world of data. We live in a world that every day we generate 329 quintillion bytes of data. Quintillion is a million trillion. It's a huge number. It's mind-boggling how much we do every day. But there are two other things that are really fascinating with this number. A, this number is multiplying itself every 18 months. By next year, 600 quintillion. The year after that, we are moving from the quintillion range to the sextillion range, which is a billion trillion bytes of data. If we had this discussion back in 2000, global data was multiplying every 15 years. In 2010, every 6 years. Now, every 18 months. The second point about this number is that we are creating so much information and so much data, but only 1% is used. We are wasting 99% of global data. Only 1% is stored, analyzed, and used. Think how much we managed to achieve with 1%, right? We changed our DNA, we cracked the atom, we created stars, we created life, everything with 1%. What would happen if we would use 2% or 3% or 4%? And remember this number, it's going to be very important later in my presentation. The second point is, we talked about data. As I said, the second point is processing power, which is getting stronger and stronger all the time. And since Apollo 11 moon landing mission, processing power is up 1 trillion folds. In your smartphone today, doesn't have to be the latest version, you have more processing power than the Apollo 11 moon landing mission in the palm of your hand today. More than that, in your USB charger, when you charge your phone, just in the USB charger, there is more processing power than the motherboard of Apollo 11. And it's getting stronger and stronger all the time. It's not stopping. Every time someone comes and says, no, the Moore's law, the physics are not going to work, the Moore's law theoretically cannot go more than that, a new technology comes and extends it and reincarnates it again and again. So I think we understand that and we see that. But what we don't understand about processing power is it's only getting stronger and stronger. It's getting cheaper and cheaper all the time. Every 4 years, the cost per calculation goes down by 90%. So if I do the same analogy since Apollo 11, it's actually down 99.9999%. Today, we are getting calculations for free. So we're creating more and more data, and it's cheaper and cheaper to process it. Today, we're getting all of this technology for free. And by the way, it's not just processing power. Look at memory chips. Since 1995, memory capacity went up 16,000 folds, while the price per gigabyte is, again, down 99.99%. We are today in this world that we are getting technology for free. We're creating more and more data, and we are getting it for free. So the combination of those two things is what makes things accelerate and move exponentially. And this is the biggest mistake that we are making with technology. Because we've been taught, we used all of our life linear models. That's how we came out of the university. That's what we've been taught. We use linear models. We are getting from point A to point B. We are using PEs. We are using DCFs. So they're all linear models while technology moves exponentially. And if we do that, if we think in linear terms, we are missing developments, we are missing technologies, not by a quarter, and not by a year. We're missing technologies by decades, sometimes by centuries. We have 9 billion active mobile phones on the planet. 9 billion, more than people. If we take all the different estimates out there in the last 10 years, the consulting agencies, the analysts, every company out there and merge it up, to get to 9 billion active mobile phones was expected to be here next century. We missed it by 100 years. Why? Because all the projections were linear projections, while things, of course, moves exponentially. And it's not just, by the way, it's not mobile phones. So many other technologies, cloud computing, 85 years, renewable energy, 79 years. We miss it by decades of decades of decades. So for us as investors, of course, this is very negative. For companies, it's also so negative. Because when companies are doing that and they're forgetting that things are moving so fast and they're so obsessed with the short term, they are vaporized. We see Kodak moments left and right. If we had the discussion back in 1960, the average life expectancy of a company on the S&P 500 was 62 years. That was the average time companies stayed in the S&P 500. It's down to 17 years. Some estimates are already talking about 12 years by next year. Companies are vaporizing left and right. Why? Because they are so obsessed with the quarterly numbers and with the short term, they're forgetting that the long term is happening so much faster, the disruption is coming so much faster. We don't want to be here. We want to be on the other side of the equation. What happened to companies that understand that are facing disruptions and investing in disruptions before it happened? They are becoming now bigger than countries. Apple market cap is today bigger than the UK. Alphabet is bigger than Canada, and NVIDIA today is bigger than France. And by the way, as you do know, it's not just technology. Novo Nordisk today, market cap is bigger than Spain. Walmart today is bigger than Brazil, and can give you so many more other examples. It's there. We want to be invested here. We want to focus here. We don't want to focus on the other slide. So the question is very, very simple. How do we position ourselves here? And the answer is also very simple. We have to find those defining moments and invest according to them. Wouldn't it be amazing to buy Apple in 2007 when the first iPhone came out, and that's it? Not buy, not sell, not do anything. I promise you, if we would do that, just that, the most simple thing, none of us would be in this room. Our kids will not be in this room. We will all be billionaires. No, Amazon in the 90s and so on. Those defining moments in history that everything changed. And the good news, we have a defining moment today. We are living in a defining moment, a disruptive moment that everything is about to change. Generative AI. This is about to change everything. This is going to be, for us, bigger than the internet. It's going to be bigger than the smartphone revolution. This is about to change our life dramatically. Never, ever a technology in history was adopted so fast. Today, across all the different models, roughly 1 billion people are already using generative AI. We are only 18 months into the revolution. 1 billion people are using it. It could be ChatGPT, it could be Copilot, it could be Anthropics, it could be DALL-E, it could be different models, it could be for your smartphones. And very, very soon, with the next generation of smartphones, 2 to 3 billion people are going to start using it. Never, ever a technology was adopted as fast. Never a technology was developing as fast as we see with generative AI. If we compare the development of AI, the size of the model, the complexity, the number of neural connections to the Moore's law, up until 2018, generative AI outperformed the Moore's law by roughly a factor of 6. If I'm driving 10 kilometers an hour in my car, the car next to me is 60 kilometers an hour. That's give or take the range. 2018, ChatGPT was born. We had no idea at the time. Generative AI sparked into our life. Since 2018, it outperformed the Moore's law by a factor of 3,000. If I'm driving 10 kilometers an hour, the car next to me just surrounded the planet. This is the comparison. It's getting stronger and stronger, faster and faster. The number of connections are getting without human intervention anymore. And we are at the edge that is going to outsmart us. We live in this defining moment. And last thing, as you will see from my presentation going forward, every industry, every company, every person on the planet is going to start being impacted and changed by AI. So we understand that we don't know anything. We understand that things are moving very, very fast. We understand that we need new models, new doctrines. Let's think together how our future is going to look like, how the next 10 years are going to look like. So I can go and start talking about the mega trends that are going to change our life, they're going to transform our life, but I decided to do something different with you. I decided to, let's look at the next 10 years, year by year, how our life are going to change each and every year. This is the best way to really understand the future, how our future is going to look like. Now, I have to warn you in advance. We're going to go year by year now for the next 10 years. I'm going to throw a lot of information at you. I'm going to throw a lot of numbers. I'm going to jump between a lot of different trends and mega trends, technological, environmental, demographic, a lot of things. I'm going to jump between them. It's going to be quite mind-blowing, but it's going to be worth it. This is the only way to understand what kind of a world we're heading into. So let's start, buckle up, and let's start our journey the next decade. We're actually going to start this journey last year, 2023. We have a massive aging problem in the world. No, I know who I'm talking to. You know that. Life expectancy is going up. In 2023, last year, in North America, there were more grandparents than kids, more 65 years and above than children under 15, and this gap keeps increasing. From one side, we are living longer and longer. Life expectancy is increasing, and as you will see from my presentation, it is about to boom. It's about to increase so much more. From the other side, we don't have kids on the planet. Birth rates are falling all over the world. We have record low birth rates in the United States, in China, in Japan, in South Korea, in most of Europe. Actually today, 50% of the countries in the world have birth rates which are below replacement rates, meaning that their population is shrinking. So from one side, we're getting older and older. From the other side, no, there are just no kids to support us. Everything is about to change. Think about the pension system. Already today, the global pension deficit today, $100 trillion. And in 2 decades, $400 trillion, 4 times the world GDP. Who's going to pay for all of this? The job market has to change. Services have to change. The healthcare market has to change to accommodate that. And it's going more and more. Now, today, we live in a world that we just don't have kids. There are more pets in Taiwan than kids. Japan sells more adult diapers than baby diapers for the last 10 years and getting more and more. This is the kind of world that we live in, so we have to start thinking about it. Another thing that happened last year, 2023, we saw the first product or the first real stuff coming from AI. What is AI can really do for us? In 2023, DeepMind, a subsidiary of Google, created, using AI-generated simulations, 2.2 million materials that never existed on Earth. 800 years of knowledge leapfrog using generative AI, using computer simulations, taking molecules and creating new materials. And you know how we create new materials. You go into the lab, we're checking, we're doing it and accurately, we understand the right compounds and everything. Using computer simulation, that was done in roughly 40 days. That's it, 2.2 million materials that never existed on the planet, and we got in 40 days, 800 years of knowledge leapfrog. And those chemicals, those new materials, those molecules are the essence and the basic of everything that we're going to do going forward. That's the chemicals for our drugs, for healthcare, for industry. Everything is about chemicals, right? The batteries that we are doing. We start to see the first products coming out of it. Example, we all want batteries. Now, we all want electric cars, but the United States know that if we do want, we have to go to China. China is the one that is producing most batteries in the world and controlling most of the mines. And let's be really honest, batteries did not change for the last 60, 70 years. We are using the same batteries, slightly different compositions, slightly longer, slightly safer, same batteries. United States decided to go a new wave. They approached Microsoft and they said, let's think and let's plan the next generation of batteries. Microsoft used generative AI tools and screened 32 million materials down to 18, which will be the next generation of batteries in 80 hours. 80 hours. We don't know what are the composition of those batteries because the US government still did not provide the information. But what we do know are two things. A, they are very different from the current batteries composition, makes us think that everything that we've done up until now was wrong. They're going to be longer range, going to be cheaper, going to be faster, everything around those batteries. And the second thing that we know that if we would use traditional systems to screen those 32 million materials and take them to the lab, it would take 2.1 million years to do. They did that in 80 hours. We're starting to see how generative AI is changing each and every industry out there. We're starting to have live examples. How about we predict the weather? Hurricane Brill. All the different NASA supercomputers and NOAA calculated the Hurricane Brill in a wrong way. They said it's going to hit Mexico. Eventually it hit Texas. I don't know if you know that, but to calculate a hurricane, you need 12 billion calculations per minute. Well, DeepMind did it in one computer, few minutes, a few millions of dollars, and calculate 99.99% accuracy. And think about what that means. That means that today we can start calculating the weather with accuracy long term. We have all the models. Generative AI can do that for us. Think about what that means for global GDP. Think about what that means for development, for food, for planning. If we will know our weather 99.99% long term. Today we are getting 70% only for the next 24 hours. That's really what we have today. This is about to change everything. And AI is getting stronger and stronger, faster and faster, better and better all the time. We have to start asking ourselves, when will AI smart the human life, so the human brain? So I have no idea if ChatGPT 5 will outsmart humans, will have more connections, the neural network is going to be bigger than the human brain. Probably not. There is no doubt that ChatGPT 6 will have more connections than the human brains, or the models. And that's going to be not 25, 26. Those ranges, we're talking about 1 to 2 years. That's roughly about it, that AI will outsmart us. And there's a lot of good. There's so many things we can start doing with AI, but we have to start talking about the risks. And the risks are huge. It's technology that can change everything for good and for bad. And there's a lot of risks out there, and we decided to focus on one risk only, and that's cybersecurity. Even before generative AI, this was the #1 global risk. If cybercrime was a country, it would be the 3rd largest economy in the world, only second to the United States and China, $7 trillion by 2023. The numbers of attacks out there are jumping through the roof. In 2014, we had 120,000 attacks every week all over the world. In 2023, we had 1.8 billion attacks every week all over the world. And then generative AI came. And the number of attacks out there sparked to the billions. We have no idea how many attacks are there per day, per week. We have no idea. No one knows anymore because we are all hackers. Each and every one of us, I'm not recommending to do that. Any one of us can go now to ChatGPT or any kind of chat box and ask to come up with an algorithm to hack our school, hack our bank, hack our work, and it will. And the attacks and the complexity is just going through the roof right now. Everything is hackable. So the world is divided into two. People that got hacked and people that have no idea they got hacked. As simple as it is. And it's getting completely out of control. And now we are moving to the next stage. And the next stage is all about privacy and deepfakes. So we all saw Katy Perry in the New York Met Gala a couple of weeks ago. She looked stunning in an Oscar de la Renta dress. Everybody was talking about the dress. Even her mother that called her and talked to her about the dress and asked her about the dress. The only problem is that Katy Perry was not there. She was in LA at the same time. And the true story, her mother was fooled by this picture that went viral on social media and called her to talk to her about the dress, but she was not there. Deepfake. And the levels of deepfakes are getting ridiculously high right now in quality that we can't even imagine anymore. Up 62 times in the last 5 years. Everything is now just becoming viral. Everything you see it on social media, you see it everywhere. So where Katy Perry dressed in the Met Gala, okay, no harm was done, fine. Oscar de la Renta dresses, prices went up on the day. When the Pope came out with a Balenciaga coat with this picture, Again, Balenciaga sales went up dramatically on the day, up until the Vatican, and it's a true story, the Vatican came with an official announcement saying this is not the Pope. No harm was done, but we are in an election year. And not just in the United States, we're in an election year all over the world. We just had a lot in Europe and France and the UK and India. And we had so many countries that just went through elections, and deepfakes are a crucial part in every election campaign. Start to impact everything. Identity stolen, videos, pictures, everything around that in levels that the human eye cannot detect anymore. The two advice I will give you are one. With this whole revolution of AI, we live in a world of zero privacy, zero. The faster we'll understand that everything that we do is recorded and used, the better, because this is the world that we live in. We can't do anything to avoid it. The second thing, everything that we see on social media, traditional media, we live in a world that we have to ask ourselves, is that true or with that deepfakes? As the World Economic Forum said, this is the #1 global risk going forward. So I depressed you enough, let's move on. If we would take the global electric grid today and stretch it this year, it would get from Earth to the moon, to Venus, back to the moon, and back to Earth. Why I'm telling you that? Because in 10 years, this will have to double. We're going to need so much more electricity. No one is thinking about how much electricity we need. AI, data centers, the IT sector is consuming so much more energy. It's becoming ridiculous how much we need more. So we are moving into a world that we are from energy transition that we talked in the last couple of years to energy addition. And we have to start thinking about which kind of energies that we need and how much more energy. And I'm a big believer that all the different estimates out there will start changing. If it's the IEA, whatever, we will need so much more because of the IT sector. And IT sector will also consume a lot of more resources. We will need more copper. We'll need more nickel. We'll need more lithium. We'll need so many more things that we are running into structural deficit. We have enough on our planet, don't get me wrong, but up until we're going to mine it, we're using it so fast that we are getting into structural deficit in so many of our resources. And the one thing that no one's thinking about is not just our energy. It's not just our natural resources. We are running into scarcity of water. All the data centers are consuming so much more water. We will need probably to double the amount of global data centers that we have in the world right now. So much more water will be needed that by next year, 2025, 2/3 of our plant will face water shortages. 75% of our plant is covered with water. 1% is drinkable, and we are depleting it so fast that by 2040, we might not have fresh water anymore. At the same time, the United States is missing 18% of all its fresh water supply because of leaking pipes and bad infrastructure. So we have to start thinking about that as well. There's so many geopolitical tensions rising all over the world because of water. This is the next big theme. Another thing that will happen by 2025, and you know that better than me, probably, is the genomic database. The fastest growing database on the planet today. By next year, it's going to be bigger than YouTube and Twitter or X together. Why it's so important? No, because if we had this conversation in 2003 to sequence my DNA, your DNA, would cost us $2.7 billion. Today, for the average consumer, it costs $100 to sequence his or her DNA. And we can know we have more information about ourselves. We can start preparing. We can start doing stuff with it. We can start understanding about future diseases, conditions, and everything that's DNA connected. There's a lot of other stuff as well, but this is extremely important. And we can start preparing. And this is so important. 97% of all the drugs and treatment that we are consuming today, 97% are by definition treatment. 3% go for prevention. 97 go for treatment. Now, if we have this information, we can spend slightly more on prevention, but way less on treatment. Great business model for the human body. Life expectancy is about to go up. We are the generation here that we will live beyond 100 years old. It's not going to be that abnormal. It's already started to happen. You start to see that living to your 90s is not that abnormal anymore. It's starting to happen right now. We'll need so much more energy that if we will take all the global data centers in the world, they would consume more energy than Japan in 2026. As I said, we already talked about it. We will need more, so much more, more capacity, more different grid, and everything around that. But at the same time, we need so much more, but it's not going to be fossil. We are actually reaching peak oil by 2027. Now, it's peak oil supply and demand. It's not the end of oil. Oil will be with us for decades, maybe even centuries. So how do you, it doesn't balance, right? We need way more energy, but we are reaching peak oil. What's going on? Very simple. If we learn something from the war in Ukraine, is that we need energy that will be independent. I cannot rely on other countries to supply me my energy need. Energy has been weaponized. I need energy that will be cheap and scalable and fast. Renewables. It's going to be fast, it's independent, and it's cheap, by 25% cheaper than fossil in some countries. It depends on technology, it depends on the place, but up to 25% cheaper. It's scalable, and we're going to move to that. We're going to move to nuclear. We're going to move to all those other areas that will eventually reach to the peak of oil by 2027. It's not that far away. So interesting enough, we will need so much more energy, but we are reaching peak oil, eventually paving the way for net zero without asking ourselves the question, do we or do we not have a climate change problem? We are heading there because of other factors as well. By 2028, the number one technology that we thought always is going to come and change our world, 5G, will have to be replaced by 6G. 5G will be the shortest lived G on the planet. We always thought that 5G is going to come and change everything. It was not even really deployed. Only 2% of the world have 5G, but we are generating so much data, so much information, that 5G networks are getting clogged. And I don't know if you noticed that, but all over the world, speeds of internet, mobile internet, are coming down because we are stuffing so much data to the grid that just not enough. We'll have to replace it by 6G. This is the world that we live in. So the biggest revolution that we thought was going to come and change everything will be the shortest lived revolution. We'll need to move to something else. And 6G is going to be a combination of a lot of different technologies that will supply us our communication needs. One of them is one that we are really, really keen about, nanosatellites. By end of the decade, each and every one of us will have his or her own personal satellite that will give us all of our communication needs. Our broadband, our media, our phones, everything will be by satellite communication. I'm talking about nanosatellites, CubeSats, those that are as small as the palm of your hand, as small as your smartphone, are already sent by the thousands to space today. Now, it's great that we all have satellite communication, but think about what that means for global GDP. Think about what that means for Africa, for emerging markets, that now we can have broadband coverage, what that means for the growth and for the developments. It's huge. It's a game changer, and it's already happening. The Galapagos Islands. If you live in the Galapagos, there were 30,000 habitats on the Galapagos. If you live in the Galapagos, up until a year ago, you had 2G. Sometimes you can make phone calls, not all the time. Sometimes you can make phone calls. A year ago, Starlink started to cover the entire archipelago with fast broadband internet. It's not exactly nanosatellites, but it shows you what it can do. 3 months, 100 new businesses open up in 3 months' time. In 1 year, hospitalization rate dropped by 50%. One thing changed, broadband internet. That's it. And today, the Galapagos are the fastest growing GDP on the planet. Yes, it's coming from a very, very low base. You can't compare it to Europe or US or China, of course, but this is what's going on with one thing that have changed. So we are heading into this kind of revolution. Another thing that will happen by the end of the decade is we can cheat death. AI. AI will help us to develop drugs in a faster way, cheaper way, using generative AI simulations. Look at what AlphaFold did, and regulation will have to adopt that. And today, what AlphaFold, which had developed a candidate for a drug for liver cancer in 30 days, it's still a candidate because the regulation have no idea how to tackle it. But think about it today, on average, now again, I'm very bulk number over here. To develop a drug, you need roughly 10 years. You need $4 to $5 billion, a success rate of 0.01%. And now using generative AI, you can do it so much cheaper, faster, and more efficiently. And it's not just drugs, it's personalized, a personalized medication, treatment, diagnostic, everything AI generated, which is going to change everything and decrease dramatically the cost of healthcare expenditures. Now, if I add that to what I said before that about the genomic data, then now I can personalize. I have my information, I have my DNA information, and I can marry the two. That's a game changer. Life expectancy is about to boom. So I don't know if we're going to cheat death, but definitely life expectancy are about to boom. And we have to think about the job market. Generative AI will take a lot of our jobs. Now, I'm a big believer that more jobs will be created. There will be very different jobs. But we also have to think about this whole thing, this imbalance about no youth and we're living longer. So think about our kids. Our kids are going to go out of universities in their early 20s, and they're going to live up to 100 years old, meaning that they're going to retire somewhere in their 80s. They're not going to do the same job for 60 years, right? Think about how much our job have just changed just in the last 3-4 years, and we're just at the beginning of the change. We'll have to train 1 billion people in the next 10 years. New jobs, new skills, everything is about to change. And we'll hit the holy grail of green, unlimited energy. Nuclear fusion. This is the holy grail. Think about that, if you think about nuclear fusion, it's cheap, it's cost almost zero, it is clean, and it's abundant. You have as much as you need. And just to give you the comparison, if today we use 110 million barrels of oil every day to power our world, if we're all going to move to nuclear fusion, we'll need the equivalent of 11 barrels. That's it. And the joke with nuclear fusion, for the last 30 years, it's 30 years away. But the development that we've seen recently, I told you about the star that was created in South Korea, about Ether, about what's going on in France. The development that we've seen because of generative AI simulations and technology and development is mind-boggling, that by the next decade, we will have nuclear fusion. It's going to be up and running. And we're going to generate so much more energy, but we're not going to run it through the current grid. We'll have to change our grid. We need more energy. We need much more efficient. We need new materials. We're going to move to superconductors. This is the most efficient material on the planet. It's still in early development stage, but again, we saw a leapfrog of development. Then while we'll have nuclear fusion, we'll have this technology as well. And just to demonstrate how efficient this technology is, to power a city in the size of Boston, all you need is one cable, 17 centimeters diameter of a supercomputer, and that's it. This is how efficient this material is. So think about it, those two things will happen together, what that means for global energy consumption. If you think about it, AI will give us more energy, new materials, drug development, food, everything will start using generative AI. So if we use it in the right way, are we at the edge of moving from the world of scarcity to the world of abundance, from the world of not enough to the world of more than enough? If we use technology in the right way, this is exactly where we go. And we in the thematic team believe that some point by the middle to the end of the next decade, we are moving to the worst of the deflationary environment in human history. And we have to ask ourselves, we're going to have so much more, and we can harness technology to do all this stuff. Just in time, when AI will not outsmart the human, just outsmart the human brain, it's not just going to outsmart humanity, it's going to outsmart life. Artificial super intelligence. And if you think about life is so much more smarter than humanity. Why is that happening? Why are we going to get to artificial super intelligence? Because of two reasons. First one is because the models are developing so fast, stronger and stronger, faster and faster all the time. It's not stopping. But from the other side, because AI is about to merge with another technology, the technology that's about to change everything, the fire moment for humanity, quantum computing. This is about to change everything. The machine that can calculate everything in no time. Now, I'm not going to go and explain what a quantum computing is because no one understands that, and I love technology that no one gets. But I want to give you one tidbit, one food for thought. In 2019, a consortium of NASA, Google, and few universities have declared on quantum supremacy. This consortium have said that they've reached quantum supremacy, which their quantum computer made more calculations in 200 seconds than the IBM supercomputer, the fastest computer on the planet today, will make in 10,000 years, in 200 seconds. 6 months ago, the same consortium announced that whatever they've announced in 2019, it's 45 times faster now. The machine that can calculate everything in no time. This is the machine that will allow us not to use 1% of global data. I told you we only use 1% of global data, but 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%. And we're not going to double global data every 18 months. We're going to double global data every 12 hours. And we're going to use so much more of it. This is the world that we are heading, and it's happening in 10 to 15 years' time. This is where we're heading right now. So I want to finish with one sentence that I'm a big believer in. It's not me, it's Sam Altman, said that 2024 will be the most interesting year in human history. We will probably not going to feel the change. We will continue our life as they are. We're going to continue to go to work, everything as they are. But the things that are happening this year, 2024, are about to change humanity forever. And I will gladly take any questions. And thank you so much for your time. Again. Great. Yes, please. Because we didn't have the right technology up until now. The problem with nuclear fusion was very simple. We know how to do fusion. It's very simple. We have hydrogen bombs. We already know how to do that. What we don't know how to do is to make it stable. The energy that we can use, like nuclear fraction, that we do know how to make it stable. The problem with nuclear fusion was always endless amount of calculations, how to control the plasma that is being created that eventually generate the energy. The solution up until a year ago was to just harness more and more computing power to try to do that. That have changed. Generative AI simulations can do those same amount of calculations we need, and we need so much more, and a lot of supercomputers were actually harnessed to that. Well, generative AI simulations today can do the right simulations and control the plasma in the right way without adding all this massive extra capacity of processing power that needed in the past. That is what has changed. This is why in 1 year we saw a leapfrog that we didn't see in 20 years. So as I said, it's not here, it's not today, but it's massive leapfrog. We never ever dreamed that we can have stable plasma, as I said before that. Just to show how fast it changed, nuclear fusion energy that started in the 60s, give or take, we never create a stable capsule. A year ago, in the United States, an experiment managed to do stable plasma for 0.1 second. 6 months after that, France did it for for 15 seconds, and now we have it already for 6 minutes. So we see the hockey stick already happening. Sure. Have you have microphones? Thank you.
Hello.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, first of all, thank you so very much for this. This is just absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
My question is, do you have an opinion or any thoughts how all of this, the next 10, 12 years, will impact political economics, socialism, capitalism, communism, et cetera, et cetera? Thank you in advance.
Excellent question. Thank you so much for that. There's going to be massive, massive changes. It's really a question of what we're going to do with technology. What we are seeing today, this is a game-changer technology. This is about to change everything. It's a national security issue in so many countries. And the way that we are seeing it today, what's going on, is that countries are actually closing down and trying to keep the technology in-house, mainly the United States, because if you think about AI is an American technology. the companies, the development, the algorithms, the same as everything are American companies and led in the United States. So we are seeing two trends. The first trend is deglobalization. It's accelerating deglobalization. We're seeing more and more restrictions about export of technology, about keeping technology in-house. So, and I think this is a trend that will continue. Then the second question is going to be, what am I doing with the technology? If I'm using it also here, if I'm using it for better planning, food, water, resources, and so on, we have an opportunity of a lifetime to change everything. But it's going to be our decision-maker decisions about that. No, we are big believers that eventually we will see, no, we're going to move to the world of more than enough. We're going to move to a world of abundance. And we're asking ourselves, you know what? If we are doing that, do we really need to work 5 days a week? I told you the job market is about to change because of AI. Do we really need to work 5 days a week? I'm not sure anymore. Actually, my team thinks we're going to move to 3 days a week. I think a little bit, probably this is their wishful thinking. But if you think about the weekend was invented only 150 years ago. Up until 150 years ago, we worked 7 days a week, moved to 6 days a week, productivity went up, 5 days a week, productivity went up. And now with AI, we have an opportunity. So that's the question. If we are now moving and will harness it politically and geopolitically to spread the wealth, this is a very important question. I still believe it will be kept inside countries. So US has a huge opportunity over here and a massive advantage. It's very far ahead. China, on the other side, is developing their own mods and their own technology because of the bans from the United States. And I'm sure they're going to do the same. They're going to keep it in-house and in the country. Europe is far behind. And countries which are not investing today in AI and the silos and the barriers of entry are just getting bigger and bigger and taller all the time, will be disadvantaged in this kind of environment. So I hope that answers your question.
So every technology brings with it unintended consequences and unforeseen consequences. And all of the technologies that you're excited about have great potential to do all of that. What are we doing to model the unintended, unforeseen consequences that are emerging with these technologies? And also, well, I'll just leave it at that. That's enough of a question.
Again, this is a very important question that is being debated a lot right now. And I have to say up front, in thematic, we always call the good and the bad, not just the good. We don't do enough. We just don't do enough. This is going to be a technology going to change everything. And regulation usually follows technology. It's not the other way around. But the technology is developing so fast that the gap from the regulatory change that we need is just increasing more and more. It's not changing. They're not closing the gap. Unfortunately, we will have more bads before regulation is going to wake up. We saw that in the past, Cambridge Analytica, only after that, GDPRs came out and privacy rules came out. This has the potential to do damage before we'll have the right framework. Also, there's another question over here. Will we have a global framework to put cap, to put restrictions, to put stuff? No. Because countries are seeing that as a national interest right now, I don't see cooperation. I don't see the UN addressing a lot of speeches, a lot of stuff. I don't see it happening. So it's a very important question. I think a lot of it is going to come from people and going to come from companies. Companies are about to adopt AI. It doesn't matter if you're financial services or healthcare or industrials or consumers, you're about to adopt AI. If companies are not going to put the right restrictions on themselves and check quality data checks and all this stuff, it's a make or break. So you will see a lot of the restrictions and the defenses actually coming from the private market and not necessarily from governments. Yes. Okay. Cool. Thank you very much, everybody. And see you later. Thank you.